Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that the first decades of our lives are not the main story, but rather a preparation for what comes next. According to him, life truly begins at 40. Until then, he argued, we are just doing research. It's a bold statement that challenges the way most people perceive aging. We are often taught to fear aging, to see middle age as a period of decline, chaos, or crisis. Popular culture is filled with cliches about the so-called midlife crisis, moments of existential dread, impulsive decisions, and desperate attempts to cling to youth. But Jung offered a radically different perspective. What if this phase of life is not a crisis but an awakening? What if it is not an end but a new beginning? To understand this, we need to reflect on what the first 40 years of life represent. Think of these decades as a phase of exploration, a time when we gather experiences, build identities, and learn how the world works. It is a period of rapid growth, shaped by the ideas and values of those around us. During this time, we grapple with questions like, who am I? What should I do with my life? What will make me happy? These questions drive us in our youth, but the answers we often find seem incomplete. In these early years, we are trying to understand life while still figuring out who we truly are. We build careers, relationships, and families, focusing on external success and social approval. We learn, we struggle, and sometimes we fail. All of this shapes us. However, as Jung suggests in Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, this is all preparation, research, laying the foundation for something deeper. As we approach 40, we begin to notice that the old ways of living no longer satisfy us. The priorities that once seemed so urgent, climbing the career ladder or meeting societal expectations, start to lose their appeal. We realize that much of what we did was shaped by definitions of success and happiness that weren't our own. This realization can be disconcerting, but it's also liberating. It marks the beginning of a new phase, a process Jung called individuation. This is the journey of becoming whole, of living life on our own terms. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It begins gradually, often with small, silent questions. Is this all there is? Am I living the life I truly want? These questions may surface during moments of reflection, a milestone at work, a significant birthday, or even a quiet evening alone. Once these questions appear, they don't go away. They grow louder, demanding answers. Finding those answers requires us to face ourselves in ways we never have before. It's easy to label these moments as a midlife crisis. Moments of questioning and change can feel like a breakdown. But Jung invites us to see this experience differently. What if it's not a crisis, but an opportunity? What if this phase of life, with all its doubts, challenges, and transformations, is exactly what we need to become the person we were always meant to be? In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung describes middle age as not the beginning of the end, but the start of something much more real, meaningful, and authentic. To fully grasp Jung's perspective, it helps to consider how we view the first half of life. During those early years, we are focused on building what Jung called the persona, the external identity we present to the world. The persona is shaped by our upbringing, culture, and social expectations. It's the version of ourselves that seeks approval, fits in, and succeeds in the eyes of others. This phase is necessary. It teaches us how to navigate society and establish the foundations of adult life. But the persona is not the complete self. It's a mask, a role we play. The problem arises when we become overly attached to it, confusing the persona for our true identity. As we reach middle age, cracks in the persona begin to show. The roles we've played start to feel limiting, and the dreams that once inspired us may no longer resonate. This is where the real journey begins. Middle age is not about breaking down. It's about breaking through. It's about redefining success and happiness on our own terms. Jung saw this period not as a decline, but as an opportunity to shed old definitions and embrace a life that is more authentic and meaningful. This process requires courage and self-reflection. It challenges us to confront the parts of ourselves we've ignored or hidden. But it's also deeply freeing. For the first time, we are no longer living for others. We are living for ourselves. Middle age, as Jung described, is the beginning of individuation. It is the stage where we integrate all the experiences, lessons, and fragments of our past into a cohesive and authentic whole. It is a chance to step into the life we were truly meant to live. This transformation is not easy, and it doesn't happen all at once, but it is one of the most profound and rewarding journeys we can undertake. Middle age is not the end. It is the start of something far deeper, a life that is not just lived, but fully embraced. We play many roles: the successful professional, the dedicated parent, the faithful partner, but as we age, these roles can begin to feel restrictive. We start to sense that there is more to us than the image we've been projecting. This marks the beginning of the real work. Jung referred to this process of transcending the persona as individuation. Individuation is about integrating all parts of ourselves, not just the socially acceptable aspects, but also the darker, hidden elements we tend to ignore or repress. Jung called this the shadow. In Man and His Symbols, he described the shadow as encompassing everything we reject about ourselves, our fears, insecurities, and unfulfilled desires. Facing the shadow can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is essential for growth. Only by recognizing and accepting these parts of ourselves can we become whole. In middle age, the process of individuation takes on a new dimension. The questions we confront are no longer about external achievements. Instead, they focus on internal fulfillment. What truly matters to me? What do I want to leave behind? What kind of life do I want to create? These deeply personal questions cannot be answered by adhering to others' expectations. They require us to look inward and listen to our own inner voice. This introspection often leads to a shift in priorities. In youth, we are driven by ambition, competition, and the desire to prove ourselves. But in middle age, our focus changes. Life becomes less about doing and more about being. It's no longer about proving our worth to the world, but about living in alignment with our true selves. Interestingly, scientific studies confirm that this transformation is supported by changes in the brain. Neuroscientific research shows that as we age, the emotional centers of our brain become more balanced. We become less reactive, more reflective, and better able to regulate our emotions and face challenges with calm and perspective. This emotional maturity allows us to make decisions based on our values rather than our fears. We stop living on autopilot and begin living with intention. However, this does not mean that middle age is free of challenges. On the contrary, it can be a time of great turbulence. The process of questioning and redefining ourselves often involves letting go of old identities, relationships, and goals. This can feel like a loss, and it's easy to see why some people experience it as a crisis. But as Brené Brown points out, what we often call a midlife crisis is more accurately a dismantling. It's a period where we are challenged to abandon the person we think we should be and embrace the person we truly are. Dismantling can be messy. It may involve difficult conversations, significant life changes, or prolonged periods of uncertainty, but it's also a time of incredible growth. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote that the primary force driving human life is the search for meaning. In middle age, this search becomes more urgent. We are no longer content to live according to someone else's script. We want a life that feels meaningful, even if it doesn't align with what we once imagined for ourselves. This process requires us to confront the fears that have held us back: the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and the fear of the unknown. These fears can be paralyzing, but middle age provides an opportunity to face them head on. It is a chance to rewrite our story. Middle age is a time of leaving behind what no longer serves us and embracing what truly matters. Abraham Maslow, the humanistic psychologist, described this process as self-actualization, the drive to reach our full potential and become the best version of ourselves. In middle age, self-actualization takes on a deeper meaning. It's no longer about achieving external success, but finding inner fulfillment. It's about living a life that feels authentic and aligned with who we truly are. This process is not easy, but it's profoundly rewarding. Studies show that people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond often report higher levels of life satisfaction compared to those in their 20s and 30s. They feel more connected to themselves and others, less preoccupied with external validation, and more focused on what brings them joy and purpose. This is the gift of middle age, the freedom to live on our own terms. Jung believed this freedom comes from embracing the full complexity of who we are. It's about integrating light and shadow, successes and failures, dreams and disappointments. It's about accepting ourselves completely, even the parts we find difficult to understand. Facing the most terrifying thing is accepting yourself completely, Jung wrote in the Red Book. But it is also the most liberating. Middle age is not a time to despair over what we've missed. It's a time to celebrate what we've gained: wisdom, clarity, and resilience. It's a time to build a life that reflects our true selves, a life that feels real and whole. It's a time to stop merely researching life and start truly living it. In this sense, middle age is not the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of something much deeper. It's a turning point, a chance to enter a life that is rich with meaning and authenticity. And while the journey can be challenging, it's also deeply rewarding. Life truly begins at 40, not because we have all the answers, but because, at last, we start asking the right questions.